The scrutiny that our pollies go through, it's never ending. I mean, we were just talking about on the international stage, Donald Trump, of course. And our federals here in Australia, the big picture decision makers are closely monitored, and our state pollies, they're constantly under the microscope. But what about our local representatives? Our councils have just been ranked on how satisfied their constituents are with them. And it's one of the largest snapshots ever undertaken of Australians' views of how well their local council is performing and looking after the essential services at that level of government. And they're very important to us, aren't they? And in the inaugural Snap, Send, Solve Community Satisfaction Index, the Sunshine Coast Council has been crowned the top-ranked council in Queensland. But let's wait and bust these numbers down a bit further. To help us get into this new data is the CEO of Snap, Send, Solve, Danny Gorog. Good morning, Danny.
Morning, Bill.
Keen to get your findings out of this survey. Firstly, we've talked in the past about the Snap, Send, Solve app. It helps the public to photograph, geotag and report issues, and most often to local councils. Is that right? A bit of an explanation as to what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's a free app available in the App Store, and it's very easy when you're out and about in the community. If you notice something that's wrong, it could be an abandoned trolley, it could be graffiti, dump rubbish, parking, illegal parking, etc. Broken trees and branches over footpaths. Very easy to send that report to the relevant council. The user doesn't need to know which council area they're in or who the authority is. We use the geolocation and the incident type to automatically route that to the right place. Now, probably 80% of the reports do go to council, but there is a heap of other solvers on the platform, things like, Telstra or Coles and Woolies for abandoned trolleys, lots of different solvers on the platform that you can use to send the report into. But this survey in particular, which is the first of its kind, which we've launched, we're just focusing on the councils. And as you say, we published a top 20 list. Now, unfortunately, there are no Queensland councils that came in the top 10, but a couple made the top 20, which was Sunshine Coast and Bundaberg Regional Council. When we compare the rankings of states, the overall Australian average was 61.2, and Queensland actually was spot on the average at 61.2. We had WA, South Australia, Tassie and Northern Territory above it, and Victoria and New South Wales below. And then the other thing we asked in this index was we actually did a really large survey of residents' priorities. And for Queensland residents, the priority was roads, 55.7 ahead of footpaths and cycling, and parks and gardens, which were 42.5%, which it's slightly different from other states in Australia.
Okay, so only two Queensland councils in that top 20. What about other councils like the Brisbane City Council?
Yeah, so we then break out in the report, which is available, we break out the top 10 councils in each state, and Sunshine Coast, Bundaberg, Brisbane came third, which is pretty impressive, given the size and the scale and the enormity of the council. Cairns, Gladstone, Fraser Coast, Rockhampton, Toowoomba and Noosa came equal 8th and 9th, and then Logan City Council rounding out the top 10.
And what were they all? Just explain again. What were they being judged on, and the criteria?
Yeah, okay. So when a snapper puts in a report, and I've just checked, in Queensland over the last 12 months, we've had nearly 250,000 reports. About 2 weeks after that report is put in, we ask the user through the app to give a rating, and we ask them really three things: their overall experience, the speed to solve, communication from the solver, and then the satisfaction with the solve, all out of 5. So we took all of that data and we combined it with the resident survey we did of about 14,000 residents across the country, and we came up with this index. So really, the snapshot captures all of that stuff and tries to kind of balance it out evenly and equally. In Queensland in particular, one of the key questions we asked was the report solved? So out of 100 reports, about 89 were marked as solved in the system, which is very positive. Not as high as other states, but still, 9 out of 10 times, basically, if you use Snaps and Solve, you're going to get the issue fixed. we're not promising in how long it'll take, but I think it's a good reflection that councils are out there doing the work that they're supposed to be doing. And we have lots of very positive experiences with the app. And actually, mostly people hear about the app from word of mouth. They have a friend who tells them they use this app. They saw some dump rubbish. They did a Snap Send Solve report. And they came back a few days later and it was gone. And wasn't that incredible?
Yeah, okay. So that's the main reason why people may or may not be satisfied with council is getting things resolved as other parts of the country. WA rated the highest, didn't they? Including 5 councils ranked in the national top 10. What are they doing right?
Well, I think there's part of that, which is they tend to have smaller councils by population, and I think that lets the council service the community a little bit better. Whereas if you look at the Queensland councils, I mean, Brisbane's the biggest council in Australia. You've got lots of big councils in Queensland, so maybe it's a little bit harder to provide that community service. But look, I think on average, what we're trying to highlight here is that councils do a really important job in the community, and these are the best performing councils we've got. I will say there was a wide difference between the best and the worst rated in each state by about 10 percentage points. But overall, obviously, they cluster around the average.
Did the results surprise you at all?
Not really. I mean, I think, part of putting out this survey for us is we want to do this annually so we can actually track whether things are getting better or getting worse. And one of the things that we track is what are the categories of reports that are growing faster. And so we've got things like public transport, roads and signage, rubbish and bins, they're growing quickly, whereas things that are growing slowly are sort of water and sewer and bad and trolleys, for example, pavement and footpaths, they're sort of growing more slowly. So I think over time what we plan to do with this is create a snapshot annually, which we can then provide back to the councils as a kind of a reference point to see sort of how they're going in comparison to the rest of the councils that are surrounding them and nationally.
Yeah, and what's the councils open to taking some of this research and some of this feedback? And did you get any other priorities from Queensland residents that you've picked up in it?
I think, look, they obviously take feedback from lots of different sources. We are just one of them. But there are, we provide a very significant number of reports to many of these councils. And if you think about where they get their ratings from, typically our reports, about 10 to 15% of all our reports get rated, which is a much higher percentage of ratings than they get through other channels. The other thing I'll say is that a Snap Send Solve report, 90-something% contain an image, and the image is so key in helping councils understand what the issue is so that they can efficiently go out and resolve the issue without mucking around. So there's lots to like about it, and I think we've got a great relationship with many councils around Queensland. And, we're always introducing new features to make it better for them, better for the snapper, to make sure that data gets to where it needs to get to fast so it can get resolved.
And it seems like metropolitan residents are a bit more satisfied with their councils than your regional or country. What seems to be the disparity there? Yeah,
we did find that. It was only about a percentage difference.
Okay.
Again, I can't tell you the exact details, but there's certainly different. I think at regional, we're more concerned with roads, and inner, we're a little bit more concerned with, better footpaths and cycling and things that, not surprising when you think about your priority as a resident in the two different spots. But not a huge discrepancy. But yeah, I was surprised to see that metro residents were a little bit more satisfied with their councils than regional.
Okay. And if anyone's keen to have a bit of a deeper dive into any of the research, how do they go about that?
Yeah, you can jump onto our website and download the report. We've got lots of interesting stats in there. It's quite a detailed report, and obviously we're providing some extra detail to councils if they want more information specifically about the scores in their area. So we're providing that as well.
Okay, lovely to chat with you. Thanks for your time and sharing that with us.
Thanks, Bill.